With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hey, I'm Dr. Z, and I'm a neurosurgeon. So that means long hours, early rounds, late nights, and everything in between. And through it all, I wear figs. Because they're built for what I do. Through the chaos, through the hours, and through whatever the day throws at me, they do their job so I can do mine. They're comfortable when it counts, and functional when I need them the most. So where do you wear your figs? On shift, on call, on the couch in the break room, listening to this podcast? Wherever it is, they fit right in. And now listeners of this podcast can get 15% off their first order. Just head to wearfigs.com and use code FIGSRX at checkout. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX.
Welcome, friends, it's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast, enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian are talking about movies. Movie Film Podcast on the radio. Welcome to Movie Film. It's episode 320, brought to you by Mr. Boy Productions. I'm Zachy Hassan. I'm here with Brian Hall.
Hey, how's it going, Zachy? How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I was about to be like, it's crazy that summer has just started, and then I look at the calendar. I'm like, oh wait, it's end of June.
Yeah. Well, someone told me that it was solstice, several days ago, and I was like, wait, isn't that like the middle of the year? And then it starts getting dark again. Mm-hmm. I thought I was noticing that it was continuing to get lighter and lighter every night, and I was getting excited about that. And I guess I already have to say goodbye to that.
Time is a fleeting thing.
It is indeed.
It puts things in perspective. I was actually thinking about how I was sort of reminiscing fondly about the whole run of commentaries that we did during the pandemic. We were knocking them out quite frequently, and you realize, oh wait, that's half a decade ago.
Yeah,
that's 1.25 high schools ago.
Wow, when you put it that way, a whole high school
plus
career. Wow. That is really strange. I mean, yeah, it's everybody has said this, but yeah, time has been so weird in the 2020s.
Yeah, this past week is the 50th anniversary of Jaws.
Yeah, that's right. It's been fun seeing it pop up everywhere, all over my feed. I saw it was on TV and all sorts of merch everywhere. Even at the theaters, I was at an AMC theater and I saw that they were selling Jaws popcorn buckets and cups and stuff. It's been kind of cool.
Nice. See, that's the stuff I like. That's the kind of nostalgia I can get on board for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So number one, I was like, hey, we just did a commentary, and I was like, oh wait, that was 5 years ago for the 45th anniversary.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Right, number one. And then number two, there's that other realization. Like right now, we're at the trailing edge of the 50th anniversary of movies that predate us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we're heading into just a decade of feeling older and older every single week as this movie celebrates its 50th anniversary. And this movie, and it's stuff that we remember. Like,
yeah, for example, I mean, Back to the Future turns 40.
Yeah,
this year. And I feel like you were just in town with me when we saw, was it the 30th or 25th or something?
25th.
Like it was
25th. It was 2010.
25th.
Yeah, it was 2010.
We just did that. In my mind, at
bananas.
least.
Yeah, it's bananas.
Yeah.
Because I introduced Back to the Future to my kids during that year, right? So
okay.
Hamza was 3.
Wow. Whoa. Okay. And now he's a high school graduate.
Now he's almost starting college. Yeah. I mean, I have a picture, which I'm sure you've seen, of him as a little kid holding a DeLorean toy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wild. You know what's funny? I wasn't going to mention this, but because we're talking about time and getting older, this is the first episode 320. The first one I'm wearing reading glasses.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been very lucky. I realize. I mean, I know many people have had to wear glasses a lot of their lives, but I've never had to wear glasses. But now I'm finding that thing where when I look at menus, I'm like, like holding it out a little further and looking at my laptop. I'm like, wait, the words aren't supposed to look quite like this, right? And so I finally got a pair of reading glasses.
You are officially in the Captain Kirk in Wrath of Khan phase. Welcome.
I'll take it.
Yeah. But in that spirit, what things have you seen lately that have you looking at life in a new way?
Actually, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I didn't even think about it that way, but most of these movies...
It's kind of a whole journey based on the things you've seen, it feels like.
Actually, yes. I'll we did our Congo commentary, which everyone should check out last week, but that's given me some time to catch a bunch of things in the theater. And I'll start with Materialists, which is kind of an interesting movie in that it comes from Celine Song, who's a writer-director who did the movie Past Lives, which I really loved. It was one of my favorite movies of last year. It's a very thoughtful and kind of aching, almost like love story. Or it's a story about romantic relationships from different eras of our lives. Right. And a really lovely reflection on that, and quite beautiful from beginning to end. I really loved her approach and the execution on that story. So I was very curious about this movie Materialists because the trailer kind of made it seem like a throwbacky, almost 90s rom-com.
Rom-com, yeah. I think a lot of audiences went in expecting something in that vein.
Yeah, well, and right down, it's worth noting in the trailer, I mean, there's a narrator, like Julie doesn't have her life together, kind of a thing, which... Wow,
that really is a throwback.
Right? Like you notice it because you realize you haven't heard a narrator's voice in so long. But anyway, so I was curious about this strictly because of the filmmaker, Celine Song. And despite the trailer looking like, oh, I feel like I've kind of seen this before, I'm like, yeah, but what does this look like from her? And it's interesting because I walked out enjoying my time with it, but talking with people, it seems like several people didn't enjoy it as much as I did. And when I say enjoy it, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed my time with it. I didn't think it was profound necessarily. It has its flaws, but
so not to cut you off, but definitely from the posters,
yes,
and the general vibe, you sort of expect some wacky thing where Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans are fighting over Dakota Johnson, and it's getting to various Jack Tripper-esque situations to woo her.
I mean, yes, and
kind of This Means War with Chris Pine and Tom Hardy fighting over Reese Witherspoon.
See, that's what's so interesting about it. So the plot, in a nutshell, is it's Dakota Johnson plays a matchmaker in New York, and she herself is torn between an old love, played by Chris Evans, and a new recruit for her service, Pedro Pascal. So Chris Evans, like I said, an old love, he has no money, and he, of course, between them, they have a lot of baggage. And then Pedro Pascal, on the other hand, is seemingly perfect on paper. What's a girl to do? So it's right. But
it's tough. If I had to choose how many times I'm stuck between Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal. Dakota, I get you, girl.
Right. But see, that's the thing. I mean, that's what I kind of like about it, though, is you can easily imagine the same story beats of this movie being from a Kate Hudson movie from the early 2000s. Right? I mean, literally, if you were to look at this movie on paper, even down to it.
Just now, Kate Hudson, listening to our show, just went, oh.
No, well, there's a place for those movies. I How to Lose a Guy.
And then just now, Kate Hudson went, oh.
And I Loved You and Almost Famous. Come on. I feel like now I have to appease Kate Hudson in this moment. I'm feeling like a little sweat going down my forehead. I Love Your Family. Anyway. But those movies have their rhythms. They have their beats. They have their broad comedy. And what I liked about this was using those same sort of beats. Celine Song kind of lets the movie move at a different tempo. It lets everything breathe a little different, a little more, and it feels a little more idiosyncratic. And I kind of enjoyed seeing that type of story with this kind of execution. And the story itself is basically about how modern dating, through apps and everything, can kind of reduce people to statistics. Where's the love, Zachy? Yeah. Where's the love?
Hey, that's true.
And I mean, again, looking at what we do have there on screen, it can, despite the great filmmaking, it can come across a little pat. right? And
Mhm.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure that everything that happens in the movie is entirely earned, but like I said, I did enjoy this different approach from a
Okay.
person with a different voice, and I enjoyed my time with it. So I think if people are looking for a movie like a story about love, I thought it was an engaging enough time, made by an interesting filmmaker. So I enjoyed Materialists.
There you go. Well, I should say Amina saw it.
Oh, what'd you think?
I think she enjoyed it. I don't know because she got back really late and she started telling me about it, and I did fall asleep. Um, but it's because it was late, and then I forgot to follow up, which is on me. That's a me problem.
Well, that sounds like a real Chris Evans move, so I'm a little concerned. You might want to.
I was about to say I'm no Pedro Pascal, as she makes clear to me at all moments of life.
On the other hand, the movie may ask you or make you ask, but do you want to be a Pedro Pascal? Could you be a Chris Evans if you worked a little harder?
All things worth pondering.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pondering and pondering life, I saw this movie called The Life of Chuck, which this was really interesting in that I don't remember trailers for this movie. It's based on a Stephen King short story. I mean, I knew nothing about it until maybe a week before it came out. It comes from Mike Flanagan, who did Midnight Mass and Gerald's Game, adapted some other Stephen King things. And I gotta say, so this is a very mysterious movie. I mean,
Mike Flanagan is like a Stephen King vet at this point, right? I mean,
exactly. And you know, he's leaned Flanagan into sort of horror with the you know, he did Doctor Sleep,
Yes,
which I think we both liked, actually.
Yes. Oh yeah, I did.
And but this is I don't know what the word is. Not so, you know, Stephen King, I mean, he's told so many freaking stories, and some of them are a little, you know, obviously scary horror, but some of them are kind of life affirming, you know, like Shawshank or something like that. Carrie?
I'm just
Yeah. Firestarter.
Yeah, life affirming.
Yeah. But yeah, this is one of his. This movie feels like a celebration of life, and it's difficult to talk about because the reason I really enjoyed this movie was because I went into it knowing absolutely nothing about it. And it was special experiencing something, a story where I had no idea where it was going, unfold just in front of me and getting wrapped up in it. And when it was all said and done, it made me think about my life, and it just, how often does that happen? You know, it's very, very special. And I do also want to acknowledge I've talked to some other people and it didn't land as much for them. And I totally understand that. This is a real, I think, an interesting discussion movie to watch and then talk with someone afterwards. But what I will say about it is it starts where the world is ending. Right, California has fallen into the ocean. All this natural disasters are going on, sinkholes. The world is literally falling apart, and people don't know what to make of it. But almost ironically, comically, these people keep seeing these billboards and signs that show a guy named Chuck, just an ordinary-looking dude sitting at an office desk, and it's congratulating him. And everyone's just like, "What is that all about?" Right? And so the movie is structured in an interesting way where it calls out 3 acts, but Act 1 is called Act 3. So we're seeing the story in reverse, and we're slowly revealing things about characters, about their lives, and that's what it is. It's really ultimately about the richness of life and how the people and experiences that we encounter along the way are what make life special. And so you have these moments. I think this is what's prominently featured on the poster and the trailer, but there's a scene where Tom Hiddleston, who plays Chuck, is dancing with this woman as a street performer is playing the drums. And it's one of those things where if you see the trailer, it could almost feel a little twee. Dancing to music, celebrate life, you know, but I was so like beaming watching this moment happen. I thought it was so well done and so sincere. And then as the story continues going, it almost turns into sort of a Wonder Years-y feeling story where there's little vignettes about things that happen along the way. And there was one moment that happens at a school dance where I actually cried tears of joy.
Get out of here.
Yeah, like I couldn't help it. Like I didn't even feel it coming on. Just tears started coming down my cheeks because it was so sweet. And my body just reacted to it. And it's funny because I was feeling a little embarrassed about it. And then I went with two friends. When the movie ended, I looked to my right, he had tears, and I looked to my left, and she had tears, and we all started laughing. So, yeah, it's a very life affirming, make you reflect on just all the interesting things that come your way that make your life what it is. And I thought it was really special. So I would definitely recommend The Life of Chuck. Sadly, I imagine it'll be streaming soon.
Yeah,
But,
the shelf life for these type of movies is shrinking.
Yeah. But also, speaking of life affirming, I saw another John Wick film. No,
Yes, of course.
life taking, I suppose. No, I saw Ballerina, which is from the world of John Wick.
That's right.
Directed by Len Wiseman, not by Stahelski, who does the other John Wicks.
Who is doing, by the way, the Highlander reboot.
Yeah, that should be very cool, I think.
Henry Cavill playing Connor McLeod.
I'm very interested to see something in a different universe from him, Stahelski.
Yeah. Most exciting is that they just announced that Russell Crowe has joined the cast.
I imagine in the Sean Connery role?
Probably. And so I'm hoping we get another crazy Russell Crowe accent.
Oh, yeah.
So that I can complete my Russell Crowe accent bingo card.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, so Ballerina is a spin-off of John Wick. So I think it was in 3. We see Wick talking to this woman in an auditorium, and she is running what looks like a ballerina academy, but it's really, for female assassins, right? And so this one is about one of those female assassins played by Ana de Armas. And I was kind of on the fence about this. If I caught it, cool. If I didn't, fine. And one night I didn't have anything to watch. I have the Regal Unlimited. It's basically like watching movies for free. And I thought, well, I could watch something I half want to see on TV, or I could go see something new and cool on the big screen. So kind of on a whim, I saw Ballerina, and oh man.
Brian,
Yes?
I'm going to stop you there, Brian.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why, folks, because we actually discussed the Ballerina on a special Patreon bonus episode of the show. And this one time, I'm going to say, if you want to hear what Brian thought about that movie, head over to our Patreon and check out that bonus show. I think you'll enjoy what he had to say.
I will say, then I'm going to say 2 words. Make of them what you will. No, 3 words. Flamethrower fight.
I am teased.
Yes.
I am suitably intrigued.
Yes. That was fun. Actually. We had kind of like a little bonus episode that kind of happened on accident. And we've been thinking of ways to generate more content for our Patreon feed. And gearing up for our commentary, we just started shooting the breeze, talking about things we'd seen, talking about life. And since we had hit record and about 20 minutes had passed, we thought, hey, this feels like a good bonus episode.
So head on over there, give that a listen.
Patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast.
There you go.
Lastly, going back to the sort of life contemplation stories, just last night I saw 28 Years Later.
Oh, nice.
So Danny Boyle,
arriving not 28 years after 28 days.
No, not quite, right? Yeah. So you had 28 days later, 28 weeks later, and then now 28 years later. And this is a return with Danny Boyle because he didn't do the second one. And
so the big question that I've had for a while is, how hung are these zombies?
That was the thing, right? I kept seeing all these articles, even on like Vulture, it was just sort of like, let's talk about the hung zombie in 20 years.
So did you just go in trying to peep that zombie dong?
Oh, you don't have to try, Zachy. It's like you're basically introduced. It's like you're basically shaking hands when you watch this movie.
The credits are projected on.
Yeah, like an old James Bond movie.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
It's like, screenplay by Alex Garland. Reading it wrapped around. Anyway, so 28 years later, I I'll be very general because I think you're planning to see this, right?
I am planning. I had hoped to see it this week, so I don't know if people can tell. I'm a little under the weather, and my plan had been to catch it before this show so that we could talk about it. And honestly, I was feeling really crappy, and I'm like, do I want to watch just like gore palooza when I'm already feeling not great? And so I decided to push it off until a little bit later. So that was my. I don't know if that was the right choice, but that was where I landed.
No, I think you did make the right choice, actually, if that was your feeling, because this is what I'll say. I think this movie's really good. Mm-hmm. And I generally tend to like zombie stuff, I guess. But really, it kind of depends on the characters, frankly, because it's just important that you care about the people. There's just so much of this stuff. I mean, of course, years and years and years of The Walking Dead and Last of Us most recently, and just all sorts of films in between, even the 28 fill in the blank later, movies. So it's like zombie action isn't new. It's like what is happening amidst the zombie action, and will I care about it? And I should say, to your point, this movie is very graphic, very grisly, very bleak. I mean, you literally see a guy, a zombie takes a guy's head and pulls him out, spine and all, out of the body. Like, not cutaway, not abstraction. Like, you literally see it. And I was telling you earlier, it made me think about how RoboCop was rated X. And I was like, how far we've come. So, I mean, I think people should know that it's gross. It's a gross movie. And actually, there were people that walked out of my screening.
Wow, really?
Yeah. But having said that, I did like the story of this. It's really, the trailers don't highlight this, but it's really a mother-son story.
Okay.
And that really got to me. It's I don't really feel like it's a spoiler to say, but it's this boy, and he's becoming a man. He's got what's in the trailers is the father taking him on an expedition where he's going to hunt zombies for the first time. Mm-hmm. And just because he's going to have to learn to do that to live in this world. And what you learn is that his mother is ill and seemingly by everyone else around them condemned to die. But the boy, his mother's his world, and he's not going to have that. So he's willing to venture out to try to find a doctor to see what they can do. And I found it all very moving, honestly. And Ray Fiennes is in it. He's in the trailers, and he plays a character that's really, really interesting. On the face of it, you think one thing, but then you're forced to shift your perspective a little bit and really reflect on life, and sort of, I mean, kind of a similar theme to Chuck, or Life of Chuck, in a way, where it's just like, we are a collection of our experiences and the people we meet along the way. And that character sort of brings that to this film.
So this is like Life of Chuck, but with more zombies.
Yes. Yeah. And way more zombie kills. Yeah. It's got its quirks. It's a little scrappy. It's a little vignette-y. Mm-hmm. But I did feel things along the way. But at the end of the day, I did also walk out with my stomach turned a little bit. So it's kind of all the above for me personally. So I don't know that I would just go into it cold if you just wanted to catch a movie. I mean, I think if you want to go see an intense zombie movie that has kind of a heartfelt story at its core, then yeah, I think it's done pretty well.
You've seen the previous ones, right?
Yes, I've seen the other two, but not since they came out.
Okay, so I was going to ask, do you feel like that's essential viewing?
No. You could watch this on its own because it's basic. I mean, it is so far removed in years.
Sure.
And if memory serves, each one is basically focusing on a different set of characters.
Yeah, it's a bit of an anthology.
Exactly. Excuse me. And this movie does touch a little bit on, well, where are we at 28 years into this kind of thing? Mm-hmm. Is everyone in the world still experiencing this? Is it just on this island? Is it just, like what? So yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of interesting ideas. Like I said, the heart of it did touch me, but I also was like, ugh. You kind of walk out still with a slightly unpleasant feeling too. So
gotcha.
That was my experience, but I do think people who are excited about this thing will probably enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'll tease this. It has an ending that is so out of left field.
Interesting.
That I really, really wish we could discuss it.
Wow. Okay.
But there's a sequel that's coming out in January of 2026. It's already shot, and I think it's setting up that.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at. How about yourself?
Well, so a couple things I've seen recently. Number one, I revisited Total Recall.
Oh, okay. The Colin Farrell classic.
Which was our second episode, if you recall. I talked about that episode.
Really?
In that episode, I talked about the Total Recall remake. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the last time I saw Total Recall, the original one, I'm talking about the original, by the way. The last time I saw it was probably, then when that movie came out. So 2012.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it has been a while, but I was kind of waiting for my older kids to get a little older, and we were home, and I was like, hey, it's time, let's do this. And man, what a trip to watch this movie 35 years after it came out, because it is so much of its time. Like I don't know, like my kids are different because they've sort of been slowly introduced to the 80s 90s action genre, right? So they have a framework. But if you're showing this to somebody completely cold, I have no idea how they would even plug into it.
Interesting.
It is so like it is so trippy, and it's so out there, and you realize like this was a major blockbuster during the summer of 90.
Right.
And you're just like, they wouldn't make something like this. Like the proof in the pudding is the remake. Which is the exact same movie minus all the uniqueness that Paul Verhoeven brought to it. Interesting. Speaking of Len Wiseman,
I was just gonna say, am I correct in thinking? Yeah, that's a Len Wiseman movie.
Yeah, So I mean, gosh, when's the last time you watched the original Total Recall?
This is funny because when I was young, I didn't see a lot of R-rated movies when I was really little. And so I kind of missed this one. So it was probably in my late 20s. Or something that I or maybe even early 30s. I saw it for the very first time all the way through.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say, I did find it a lot weirder than I expected.
Yeah.
And a lot more gruesome. Like it's very, very violent. And in a way, like you're saying, if you're sort of used to 80s violence, it's very different these days. Like there's a lot of squibs. I mean, just, fountains of blood just exploding on people.
It is, yeah. Just geysers, yeah. So that's it's very much a time capsule of not only 90s action cinema, but what people thought the future would be like,
Oh, sure.
But the other thought, like you watch the movie and you're like, this is why Arnold Schwarzenegger was a star at his peak. Because just whatever mojo he had, he was able to just pull us in, right? And I think as a test case, I think it's very interesting, right? Because if you take Arnold Schwarzenegger and compare him to Colin Farrell, I would say, and maybe you would agree, that Colin Farrell is the better actor.
Sure.
Right? And yet Schwarzenegger was the only guy who could have done Total Recall the way he did it.
Right.
So like in a 1-to-1, Farrell comes out behind because just he doesn't have what Arnold had.
Yeah, sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
that
one
of a kind sort of personality that everybody agrees they want to watch that guy. Whether he's a cop playing a kindergarten teacher, that's hilarious. Or if he's like a robot with like a muted personality, but he's taking care of a boy, who's going to save humanity. Like no matter what he does, he's interesting.
That's right. And it's somewhat appropriate that I watched this movie or revisited it just after watching Fubar, the Netflix Schwarzenegger show, to realize, like, I mean, how far we are removed from his peak.
Yeah, which is a strange thing. Yeah,
it is. And I think I said, like, that show is not great, but I enjoy him in it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But I mean, to really dig into the weirdness you're talking about, I mean, there's like 3-breasted women in Total Recall, and there's like an alien that lives on a guy's stomach or in it or something like that. Like it's very Quato. It's very, very strange, almost horror. like, like body horror type of film. So I'm kind of curious. How did your kids enjoy it? I mean, or did they enjoy it?
I think they did. I watched it with the older two.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I said, I mean, at this point, they've seen enough action pictures from that genre, that era specifically, that they have a general sense of what to expect. And, I said, oh, this is Paul Verhoeven. He did RoboCop. So they're able to make that connection,
Mm-hmm.
I think they enjoyed it. I mean, I don't think it's going to stay with them where they're like, oh, I got to rewatch it. But I don't think they regret having watched it,
Totally.
But it's different, right? Because we're in kind of the John Wick era of action movies.
Right.
And that phase was going to last for a little while, and then we'll move into the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize like all of these things that we cycle in and out of them,
Right.
Also, actually, I watched a new MCU show that's on Disney Plus right now. It's called Ironheart.
I heard of this. I think I might have heard of it because you wrote about it.
Yeah. So this is spinning out of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which 3 years ago that movie came out, which is like just that's like 18 years in Marvel time, right?
It really feels like it. That movie
long
specifically,
forgotten.
Yeah.
So this character was introduced there, and the series was meant to give her a showcase. So it's executive produced by Ryan Coogler, and it's about the character Riri Williams, who is a tech genius who builds an iron suit a la Tony Stark, and her escapades that she gets into. And I didn't know what to expect when I went in, but I will say, it's a 6-episode show, and overall I enjoyed it. It's not going to change anybody's life, but I think what it does in terms of painting an authentic portrait of not only this girl, the main character, but also the culture. It's set in Chicago, which obviously I appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of just what feels like an authentic depiction of the Black community in Chicago I plugged into, and I really appreciated that what felt real and lived in. And I was like, this is not a move. This is not a project that would necessarily have worked as a movie or even been made into a movie, because you just need something with broader appeal. And so I was like, well, if you're going to do streaming shows, this is what you do something a little niche that's a little off kilter, that plays into the universe, but lets you, tell stories that otherwise wouldn't get told,
Totally.
Me personally, a few years ago, I really liked Ms. Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
And part of the reason being it was depicting a South Asian Muslim family, and that's my life. I saw my life on screen as part of the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm.
And this gave me those same type of vibes, but depicting a different experience,
That's great. So that's out right now?
The first 3 episodes are out as we record this. The next 3 will be out in the coming week. In addition to Dominique Thorne, who plays Riri Williams, you got Alden Ehrenreich in a key supporting role that ties in. That's like a deep cut to MCU history, which I liked. Anthony Ramos, who I've been enjoying him a lot in a bunch of stuff lately. He was in Twisters last year.
Yeah, that's right.
And a couple other people. The Sacha Baron Cohen pops up in there. So a few people who I suspect you'd recognize. But
Sacha Baron Cohen?
Yeah, isn't that random?
Well, that took my brain a second to catch up with that. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So again, it's not something that demands to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's almost better. I think the MCU is some of the interconnectivity is coming back to bite it in the ass a little bit.
Right. Takes the pressure off a little bit.
Takes the pressure off. It's just doing its thing. And I wouldn't mind seeing her story continue.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, good.
Yeah. So that is what I saw. But hey, we have a whole bunch of listener letters here, Brian.
Mail call!
I believe you have a letter for me.
18,000 letters, all addressed to Santa Claus.
You got mail.
All right. So here's a note we got from David Gutierrez, who prefaces his note by saying, guys, strap in. This is a long one. So
I'm ready. Buckle up.
I know. Bottle Rocket had an early debut screening / Q&A back when I was a student at UT Austin via Texas Film Ties. Yeah, see, I see Brian leaning forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
For background, Texas, Austin particularly, was being poised as the third coast of entertainment. There were 4 of us in the theater, myself, my best friend, Brad Chip Pope, an Austin Stories actor, and a hell of a screenwriter, and a 4th guy who comes into play later.
Wow. 4 people. Okay. Wow. That's yeah.
Wes Anderson and Owen and Luke Wilson were nice enough to entertain an audience of 4 following the movie.
Wow.
The panel coordinator asked about how the movie was funded. Anderson was candid and honest. He'd made a short version of Bottle Rocket that made the festival rounds and attracted some solid attention. Also, his aunt happened to be Polly Platt, a bigwig at Gracie Films, which is James L. Brooks' company. In response, 4th guy in attendance let out a big, "Oh, fuck you."
Oh, really? With 4 people in the room? Damn.
And that's my Bottle Rocket story.
You know, I love hearing stories like this, not just that are related to things I enjoy, but also they're inspirational, where you're working on something and maybe it's not going the way you want it to, but you don't know what 5 years from now look like.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wes Anderson, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson in that moment in a theater, they worked really hard on a thing. They made the thing, and there's 4 people in there, and one of them just cursed them out. You know what I mean? And they have no idea that they're going to be nominated for Oscars later, be world famous, beloved by many. They just didn't know. I think that's I love stories like that when you know the ending, but you get to go back and look at the beginning, and those people kept persisting and they succeeded.
You think Wes Anderson wakes up in the middle of the night because he's haunted by the OFU guy still? Where he just shoots out of bed in a cold sweat, and his partner's like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I had the dream again."
Well, actually, I was picturing him being like snapping awake, but it was in like a shoebox looking room, with like perfectly hung pictures, and he like snaps his bed sheets, and they are like window blinds, like sit up, yeah.
Yeah, I like your version better.
And a twinkly little Merc Mother's Baugh score plays. I had that dream again. But he says it very flat. And then he walks, and then the camera like trucks with him as he goes into another room in the diorama house he lives in. I'm saying this as a fan, by the way.
I was about to say, I mean, you see all these Wes Anderson parody trailers that people make online, and I feel like you've missed your calling.
Yeah, that's funny.
David goes on. He says, regarding the Papa Spielberg / Storybook Anderson discussion, and this was in our in episode 19. Yeah. My question to you is this: when did Tim Burton become cliche black and white stripy Elfman la 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 Burton in your opinion? I'm gonna throw that one to you, Brian.
I like the la la la. Let me think of the early la 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 la. I remember the first movie that didn't quite work for me was Mars Attacks.
No, sure. Yeah. Oh,
and I'm not saying that's it though, because he was being very true to himself. Right?
Yeah, but I would say what David alludes to, that began with like Edward Scissorhands or something, I would say, right? Like, I mean,
I
like Edward Scissorhands, but that's what.
Oh, well, I guess when I saw the word cliche, I was thinking,
okay. Yeah, never mind.
He had done his thing, and now he's just kind of doing that thing again. Okay. I would say Edward Scissorhands to me
that's like the purest version of that.
Exactly. That was what purest Burton, really.
Yeah.
But because I mean, 99, I want to say, I think that was Sleepy Hollow, which still felt like he was pushing.
You know what I would go? I would go like 10 years removed from Edward Scissorhands, and it would be Dark Shadows.
Oh, certainly. I mean, well, I mean, were the Alice in Wonderland movies before that? Removed.
Yeah, Alice. Okay, so Dark Shadows is like 2012. Yeah, he had started going down that road well before that, right?
And by the way, if I don't remember exactly what I said at the time, I don't remember being super hard on Alice in Wonderland. Like I did think it had interesting ideas. It was kind of interesting to look at, even though the whole thing didn't really land for me. But then he started like applying his thing for other people, right? For Disney stories or this or that or whatever. And that's when it started to feel more like he had to be a little bit aware of what he was doing so he could apply his thing to a thing that isn't his. Right. But yeah, even like Sleepy Hollow, which isn't one of my favorites, but I do remember it feeling like he had new moves in that, and it was still kind of, true to himself.
The most non-Burton movie that he made that I can think of in that era is Planet of the Apes.
Definitely. That might have been one of the first times where I remember thinking, oh, I'm curious to see what a Burton aesthetic looks like with that story.
Right. And it was neither fish nor fowl.
Yeah.
Or if you will, it was neither ape nor man, one might say.
Right. I really want to actually find the moment. I'm on his IMDb now.
There's Sweeney Todd. That was somewhere like mid.
Oh yeah, that was like 2008 or 7 or something. I want to say.
Yeah.
Sweeney Todd.
Oh, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. There's a good example.
You know what? I think that's it.
That might be the demarcation point right there. So
I was going to say because Big Fish comes right before that, 2003,
which was great.
I like Big Fish, yeah, and that feels like a real swing from him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wasn't trying to do the Burton thing; he was just doing another side of himself.
That's right,
or something. Yeah. But yeah, you're totally right. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory felt like
So there you go. 20 years ago, David. There's the answer. It's the only correct answer.
Yeah, but I also really like your answer though, Zach. You have Dark Shadows.
I remember when Dark Shadows came out, and I saw somebody online said, "I see that Tim Burton and Johnny Depp have made their movie again."
Yes, very well put. Exactly.
Like that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I think we might have even, in talking about that, if we did, that's the one where you thought, okay, we'll break out the white face paint and
the
do the spirals. Yeah.
Although again, when his heart is in it. See, this is I feel bad like dissecting a man's degree because I'm like I have to believe he found something to believe in with everything he did, But I do. I mean, there are projects of his that feel more emotionally truthful than others to me, and I think for me the Beetlejuice sequel did that, and
I think so too. Yeah, I know we were pretty high on that one. It just felt like something he actually wanted to do and put himself into it. And, whether or not anyone thought it was worth a second outing, it seemed like most people did, but it felt like something he wanted to do.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, his output over the last, say, 15 years has been fairly light.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't directed a ton of movies, right? So you say, okay, well, Dumbo, I wasn't crazy about. Miss Peregrine, as I recall, you enjoyed that.
I did enjoy that. That was kind of a surprise.
Right. Big Eyes, I remember liking that.
Me too, which is, again, it feels like sort of Big Fish in that it doesn't feel like a typical type of story for him.
Yeah.
Kind of a marital drama in a weird way. But like very watchable. Actually, it was on cable recently. And I watched the last 20, 30 minutes of it. I had completely forgotten about it. Like just that it even existed, but it's a very watchable movie.
Well, there we go. Hope that answers your question, David.
Yeah. Great question.
Here's a note we got from Adamo who says, a while back, I suggested a commentary track for The Burbs, which has been weirdly not available on streaming in any consistent basis. Maybe it's because of the upcoming Peacock series of Keke Palmer, but guess what just popped up on Vudu? And I should say, once I got this note, I went right over to Vudu and I bought The Burbs.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, as soon as because I've been wanting to rewatch that. It says, this movie is an annual tradition in our house, thanks to physical media, often paired with The Great Outdoors, which would be another great commentary, for a summer vacation double feature. Speaking of the upcoming reboot/continuation, my wife and son were in LA for spring break visiting the middle spawn who's going to college there and did the Universal Studios tour, and they were filming the new version on Colonial Street, where the movie was filmed. As a super fan of the film, I gotta admit, I was jealous.
Yeah. That is a fun part of the Universal Studios tour, getting to see those streets and recognizing so many homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what that's from.
Yeah.
So the Burbs, we've talked about this. First of all, I'm like, yes, I would absolutely love to do the Burbs commentary track one of these days. I'm a big Joe Dante fan.
Definitely.
And I think we've said Sean is like a super fan.
I was going to say, that movie makes me think of Sean.
Yeah. So like, if we do it, we got to rope him in, obviously.
Definitely. That'd be a blast.
And Great Outdoors. I mean, shit, I haven't even thought of that since it came out, that movie.
Yeah. Wait, by the way, I got to say, speaking of the Burbs, who's got two thumbs and tried to pitch the Burbs as a TV show with his best friend Sean at one point.
Oh, really?
Guy. Yeah, we did. and
No
people,
kidding.
Nobody knew what it was.
Get out of here.
Yeah, we're like, we think this could be interesting, and people are like, huh? Well, okay, yeah, we'll look that up, kind of a thing. And so when I heard that it was getting made, I was like, I knew that was a good idea. Actually, I got to give credit to Sean. I mean, that was like more of his passion project.
Man, that sucks.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right. Well, I hope the show is good anyway.
No, same, of course. But no, Great Outdoors. That's one that I always think of where it had funny edited for television, like alternatives for swears, because it would always be on WGN Channel 9.
Yep.
And there's like some scene, I don't remember why, but they just keep saying like "blow it out your ass," and they say it over and over to each other. And so on TV they change it to "blow it out your kazoo."
Okay.
They'd be like, "Oh, blow it out your kazoo!" Like, you blow it out your kazoo. You blow it. I just remember it was really funny.
That's hilarious. That's the one with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd.
Yes.
Because around then was the Chevy Chase movie called Funny Farm.
Funny Farm?
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always get those confused.
Was Great Outdoors John Hughes?
That I don't know. Like I said,
like
it's been a minute.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yep. Directed by Howard Deutsch, who directed some of Hughes's movies.
Yeah, he did Pretty in
one of those.
One of them, right?
Yeah. Maybe Pretty in Pink.
Yeah.
And now he's married to Leah Thompson.
Yes, that's right. Zoe Deutsch.
Yep.
Yeah. Here's a comment we got from YouTube, and this is from Luke's Mail 24, and this is in reference to our commentary track. Going back a bit, Brian, this is for the commentary that we did for The Mask of Zorro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is great commentary as always, and thanks for the listening pleasure and saving my sanity whilst I work. That's what we're here to do. Loved this movie when it came out, and one of the things I thought at the time, which I still think now, is how effortlessly it felt that Martin Campbell, the director, could change tone from tragedy to comedy and do it seamlessly. That seems to be a real talent that other directors struggle with. I recently bought it on physical media. Yes, I still buy Blu-rays. Hey, so do I. Some of us still do. Getting harder to do these days, but we still do. And my 7-year-old son was mesmerized and asked if it was a recent film. So it still has staying power. Just a note on the sword action, the choreography was done by Bob Anderson, who's one of the most famous swordsmen in Hollywood history, working on things like Lord of the Rings, Highlander, Princess Bride, Barry Lyndon, and most famously, The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. He was actually in the Vader suit for the lightsaber fights in those two films. Oh. His credits go all the way back to stunts for From Russia with Love.
Wow. Well,
that's crazy.
To Bob Anderson.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that's one thing you can say about watching The Mask of Zorro is that those sword fights are so seamless and so like tactile, you know?
Yeah, that was literally the word I was thinking. Yep. in the skill on display, but also the environments that they're taking place in.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes it so thrilling.
That's right. Yeah. Bob Anderson passed away in 2012, I believe. By the way. So thank you for that. You know, that's kind of the fun thing is thanks to having a lot of these episodes posted up on YouTube, people find them at random times, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
And so we get some fun comments by virtue of that. Here is a comment that I got from Visions of Hope on Blue Sky, who says, I always love it when a new movie film commentary drops into my feed, even if it's for a film I haven't seen and may never see, like, just off the top of my head, 1995's Congo.
I like that.
I will take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
And as Herkimer Homolka might say, thank you very much for this compliment.
Right.
There you go.
Check out the commentary.
Hey, we got some headlines.
Extra, extra.
So here's some news right off the top, which is breaking as we record this. Lilo and Stitch 2 is in development at Disney, live action.
Makes complete sense. I mean, the first one is climbing toward $1 billion, right?
Yeah, it's currently at 923 million worldwide. So it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from $1 billion. And this goes to something greater, and it's something that we talk about a lot. Bottom line, if you build it, they will come, right? Like you can't force feed a template into any kind of thing and expect people to just show up, right? So Disney has taken a lot of guff, you might say, for their live action remakes of their animated films. People are like, why did Snow White flop? Was it because it was woke? And ultimately, no. It's because people don't care about Snow White like that. Right? Like there's this whole separate internet sideshow about like how there's no Prince Charming and things like that. And it's like, look, bottom line, we've gotten a gajillion versions of the Snow White story just in the last 10 years.
And maybe that movie also with the Seven Dwarfs just doesn't lend itself well to live action.
There you go.
Maybe that's okay. I think Lilo and Stitch, even before we had seen it, I remember both of us agreeing that felt like a good idea. That's a movie that you could totally execute and build upon in live action and make something entertaining that doesn't take away from the original animated version of it. So this one felt like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, the fact that people have shown up, I mean, I have to be honest, I was not crazy about it. I just thought it was whatever, but I'm also not the audience for it.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did end up seeing it, and I enjoyed it. Like, I mean, I think I don't think it built itself out as best it could. So, like, if you're going to remake a film, it'd be interesting to see, especially in live action. I think you can, expand on emotions and, action and comedy and whatever. And I'm not sure they went as far as they could have with that.
Yeah.
Adding even more nuance and tone with live action characters. But at the same time, when it was over, I had a big smile on my face and I laughed several times and I was like, hey, there you go. You did it.
Well, ultimately, that's really all you need from a movie like this, right?
Yeah. And it's also interesting because, I mean, it was one of those movies that almost went to Disney Plus.
That's right.
Right. And look, it's almost at $1 billion. So clearly this is, something people wanted to see. This is a character that's been beloved ever since the original. Right. So I think, doing anything in this world is going to be profitable and make people happy.
So, well, this is interesting because you talk about how Lilo and Stitch was going to be a Disney Plus original before cooler heads prevailed, and obviously think of all the money they would have left on the table, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think when we survey the long-term impact of streaming on cinema, I think Disney Plus is a serial offender because I think as a contrast with how Lilo and Stitch has done, we have the latest Pixar movie, Elio.
Mm-hmm.
Which has the distinction of the lowest Pixar movie opening weekend ever.
Yeah.
Like lower than Toy Story 30 years ago.
Wow.
Right. Now, first of all, have you seen Elio?
No, but I intend to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to Disney Plus?
No. If I can, I would like to see it. Well, you know me. We're the same way. I mean, if I can see something, I would first like to see it, prefer to see it on a big screen.
So I can't even speak to the film because I haven't seen it, but I mean, the reviews seem to be okay. The audience score seemed to be okay, but people just decided they wouldn't go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the point I'm making. I think that if you take into account how Disney Plus dropped Onward and Turning Red and Luca onto Disney Plus, either bypassing theatrical entirely or just short-circuiting theatrical, that they might as well have taken a Glock and just double tap Pixar right in the head.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like other than Inside Out 2, they just haven't been able to break through.
Which is wild. I mean, but that was a known property. People know those characters.
But and even like Lightyear, right, which was ostensibly leaning into a property that people know, it just tanked.
See, I'd be curious because I know how I've looked at Lightyear, which was, that's weird, you know.
I mean, I thought it was a dumb idea, right? So I'm not terribly surprised, but
well, yeah, and I mean, interesting. It's an interesting thought. I don't know if it was worth doing, but like, I looked at that and was like, this is confusing. I wonder how people will react to this. But I'd be interested to talk to people showing up on opening day, what they think they're walking into. You know, like, was it as confusing for them, or were they like, oh, Buzz Lightyear, all right, sure, or not? I don't know.
Well, so I haven't seen Lightyear either, but I definitely remember when the movie came out, when Lightyear came out, and there's people online who were talking about how it starts with the thing that says, "Oh, this is the movie Andy watched."
Yes,
that made him a Buzz Lightyear fan. And I'm like, well, that's like extra stupid putting that on there.
It's pretty complicated. Yeah, the Buzz Lightyear you know and love is an action figure based on this movie you're about to watch.
Right, like, come on. And my thought is, like, I don't know if you remember, in the 90s, there was the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command show.
Yes, right.
And that had Patrick Warburton as the voice. And that was like, oh, this is the, like, Buzz Lightyear that the toy is based on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, well, what is this multiverse shit? Like, you know,
it's a couple leaps.
That's what I'm saying, right? So yeah, to your point, you know, the name Lightyear wasn't enough to get people into theaters, but there was a time where the name Pixar was enough to get people into theaters, and that's what's been so just watered down, you know.
Yeah, you know, this is an interesting one because I think definitely people being conditioned to think, oh, I can get Pixar at home is a huge part of it. Like, because I've said this many episodes ago, but I mean, I've talked to fellow industry people who I would assume are as passionate about going to theaters for movies as we are, but they're not. Like this is excluding people like life things and kids and all that. That's entirely understandable, but they just don't have a passion for going in the first place. And I always found that kind of surprising. So there's that, but also I will admit, I didn't know this movie even existed till a couple of weeks ago. Elio, sorry. Yeah. And I gotta say, what I've seen of it, I can't wrap my head around it. Like, I don't know what this story is about. And it sort of looks like a cute, generic Pixar character stuck in a psychedelic screensaver. You know what I mean? And and it reminds me, I remember there was a Disney movie a year or two ago with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Universe or something. What was it called?
Something like that. Strange something. And it looked like the same thing. A bunch of animated humans in a psychedelic screensaver. I remember seeing that trailer. I was like, no, that's not going to work. Like, I can't wrap my head around this. I don't know I'm not attaching emotionally to anything. It's just
Strange World, by the way. Strange World.
I think it's just people trying to be dazzling and different, and that's all well and good, but at the heart of it, you gotta care about the characters. You gotta care about what the story is. Like, fantastic visuals aren't impressive anymore.
Right.
We can do anything. So it's what's happening in those fantastic visuals that's important. And I feel like I still don't know what Elio's about. But I'm gonna go because I love Pixar and I trust them still to at least give me, even like mid Pixar is still really, really good in my opinion. So I'm just going trusting them, and gotcha. I'm guessing, even though the trailer couldn't distill down why you should care about this, at least in my opinion, I have a feeling I probably will. But I feel like it's worth pointing out that if even I don't get it,
right,
maybe it wasn't sold as well as it could be.
Yeah, I think it's just another indication of how just the dynamics of theater going have shifted so much, right? And the streaming element of it, you can't undersell it. I mean, I'm firmly of the belief that if theatrical dies, streaming will have facilitated it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And that's just a goddamn shame.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we're staring down the barrel of a lot more of Toy Story number blank stretching into infinity. You know, a couple more Inside Outs, you know, like just more of the stuff that the names that we already know, you know, and the one thing Pixar used to be really, really good at was using people's affinity for the brand to try out something brand new.
Mm-hmm. Where you get Wall-E, something like a character
Exactly.
you've never seen before that doesn't speak for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The whole movie, the beginning, first act of the movie is a silent film, but everybody trusted them and it paid off. You know,
honestly, it's very similar to what Marvel's going through, you know? Where Marvel was able to be like, hey, you like our stuff, right? Check out Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Check out Ant-Man or whatever, you know? And they're having something similar happen. So, again, hey, what's the common denominator? Streaming there too.
Another interesting part of this is, yes, we may, or Pixar may need to make Toy Story 27, to stay afloat. But at the same time, I've been reading articles saying that these studios do still need to create new things so they can have more IP to mine.
Right.
Like you really don't want to get into Toy Story 27. You want to try to like make Toy Story 5 and then try this. Like Inside Out, not that long ago was a new thing.
Right.
And look, its sequel makes $1.5 billion. So it is kind of important that they do both.
Right.
Which is, I was kind of joking with you the other day because they announced that they're going to make a sequel to The Social Network. Right. Aaron Sorkin himself is going to be writing and directing, apparently, the sequel to The Social Network. And I was saying, well, there you go. Because this article was saying, it's really important that for companies like Disney that they, and even DreamWorks, with How to Train Your Dragon, a lot of the success of this IP feeds other things, including theme parks, theme park rides, theme park merch, theme park attendance. Right. And so I was kind of joking with you that it's like, well, there you go. We got a Social Network as an IP. Like, where's the theme park ride?
I want to watch that stunt show.
Yes, exactly. People writing equations on windows and then getting splashed with water for some reason.
In their douchebag hoodies and their effing flip flops or whatever.
Yeah, your FU flip flops.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Social Network 2 does feel like a no-brainer of a movie because it's been 15 years since the last one, and holy shit, has a lot of stuff happened in the real world since then.
That's true. The story is ongoing.
Right? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg has completed his descent from run-of-the-mill villainy into, cartoonish supervillainy.
I know, right?
And he's the Freddy Krueger of this franchise, so we want to see how he kills other people's attention span and whatnot.
Social Network 5, Dream Child.
Yeah, right? I feel like this one will end with somebody being like, hey, have you heard of this thing called Instagram? And he just kind of gets this intrigued look. We just smash to credits and you're like, uh-oh. Next one coming in 2 years, whatever.
Right.
It is funny to me that when that movie came out, you watched it and Mark Zuckerberg spent so much time trying to be like, look, I'm not like the way Jesse Eisenberg plays me, in the movie. And then like you see him now and you're like, no, you're exactly like Jesse Eisenberg plays you in the movie.
Right.
It's incredibly sad. What's the saying, right? Like, what does a man gain if he loses his soul but gains the world, or whatever that, right? I mean, here's a guy, he's got more money than God, and he's just a miserable piece of shit. It's, I don't know. I mean, seriously, again, this is, just to be clear, this is not Zachy rails against capitalism. However, it's worth thinking about. You have people, we live in an age of multi-billionaires who are just miserable people. Like, clearly they are unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they feel like if I just gather more stuff, I will somehow be less happy.
Right.
More happy.
Right.
But it's making them less happy. And I look at this as a warning.
Right.
Where I'm like, if all you're doing is just pursuing dominance, maybe it's not the way to, maybe that's not the path to a centered life. I don't know. I mean, is that crazy? Do I sound insane?
Not at all.
I was just talking to my son recently. I'm like, look, because he's like getting into the market and investing and stuff. And I'm like, that's great, man. But don't let that drive your entire existence. Just be keeping track and, whatever. Like, your goal shouldn't be to be like, wealthy beyond reason. It should be to be comfortable, have enough money to live comfortably.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, certainly, even like the market and trading and things, it can almost feel like a game you want to win,
Yes.
and it's an unwinnable game, and it's constantly getting shooken up, and it can really wipe you out. Yeah, so it's definitely. I think there's an impulse to treat it like something to beat, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah, and what I've said to both of my older ones, I'm like, look, I mean, this is a good age to start investing, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Might as well be planning ahead. But what do you want to build up enough of a nest egg to live comfortably, or are you trying to be a billionaire or something,
Mm-hmm.
Because all of that stuff just shapes how you view yourself, how you view the world,
Right.
I hadn't planned on going down this road.
right.
Anyway, I'm hoping Aaron Sorkin covers all of this, everything that I just said.
Yeah, well, send them a DM on Instagram, and
I'd be like, "Hey, Aaron, I've been thinking about your movie. I'm sure you've got your idea. Let me pitch you mine." And then a week later, I'm like, "Hey, I didn't hear back, so just following up in case this got lost in your inbox."
Yeah, I think I have something you might want to hear.
So when is Social Network 2 coming out? Do we know?
That I don't know. I saw it was just announced yesterday. I'm not sure if there's a release date yet.
Okay. Well, one can presume it'll be whatever year it comes out. Either probably next year would be my guess. It'll be just in time for award season.
Yeah. And on a side note, I saw that filming is wrapped on the next Spielberg movie, which is a UFO movie.
Yeah.
It's coming out summer, I think June 2026. I was like that Elmo fainting gif, where he's like, falls over. Like, I just can't believe in a year, less than a year now, going to get a new Steven Spielberg UFO movie. I'm very excited.
But it's going to be like Papa Spielberg. So it'll just be about it'll be about a newspaper guy who's going through files and looking at pictures of potential UFO sightings without actually going anywhere and encountering any.
It'll be Mark Rylance.
Right, exactly. And there will be a very sweeping John Williams score. So it's all fine. So it'll be Spielberg kind of mixing together his his current loves,
Yeah, that'd be okay. You know what though? I'm still excited.
Do we know if John Williams is coming back to do the score for this?
That is a very good question. I don't know. He's in his middle 90s at this point, and every year I talk about going to see him conduct at the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
And this year is the first year that it's not John Williams at the Bowl, it's the music of John Williams at the Bowl.
Really?
So it sounds like he won't be there, which is entirely understandable, by the way. The fact that he was continuing to produce into his 90s these Oscar nominated scores, that's incredible. So I think the man's earned a little piece on the couch if he wants.
Little rest if he wants it.
Yeah, but I mean, of course, I would love it. I would love it if he does the score for this, or even if he wants to compose a couple themes and let maybe his team do something with him. I'd be into that.
He has said that he'd like to keep working as long as he can, and I don't think anyone will stop him if he wants to.
Yeah.
By the way, while we were talking about Pixar sequels, worth mentioning, this just crossed my radar as well. Hey, look, Ratatouille 2 is in the works.
There you go. I mean, not surprising, of course.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't always hate the idea of a sequel if it's a character I like. There's like two ways to think of it. I mean, there's obviously the cynical version of it, but on the other hand, like, all right, well, I want them to keep their lights on, and if they can at least find, like Toy Story 3 might be my favorite Toy Story, or certainly it had some of the most potent moments in the entire series, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I guess I want to remain semi-optimistic.
I mean, I think I'm sure it'll be fine,
Right.
Like I think we don't mind the sequels, just also have some originals that catch on as well.
I hope they don't give up on doing like sequel original. I think that would be I mean, I realize it's a business, and at some point, even Pixar might have to, succumb to whoever their master is. But like, I don't know, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I mean, they've been around. I think of them still as relatively new, and they're not, man. They've been around since like the middle 90s.
Right.
So at some point, things just kind of exhaust themselves a little bit, and you hope it's just a little bit of a valley, and then you have another peak again.
That's sort of the thing that you realize is like the Pixar doesn't have the benefit of being the hot new thing.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully the legacy that they've built up is enough to want people to dip their toes in and try out whatever thing that they're trying to do.
Yeah, and that people will come to these movies however they're going to do that. I mean, obviously theatrical would be nice, but if things are changing, if streaming does become one of the equals of where people show up for movies, we need to look at how profitability works in that arena. Like just because it makes X amount in theaters, but then it does really, really well on streaming. Hopefully that becomes a new sort of quote unquote box office total that makes that movie a success. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, here's one last thing I wanted to mention to you. Gareth Edwards is out right now making the rounds for Jurassic World Rebirth, which we'll be talking about in our next regular show. So obviously while doing that, he is also discussing Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
His one and only time in the Star Wars trenches. He said that he has no intention of coming back to Star Wars. He did his thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's one of the few directors who was able to escape with his dignity intact.
Yeah, right.
Right. In terms of like the movie is well regarded, despite the fact that it was kind of a chop job.
Yeah. Good point.
Right. But I thought this was interesting. When he was, when this was in an interview with Business Insider, he is told, people think of Rogue One as the best Star Wars movie since Disney took over. His quote, I thought this was interesting. He says, "I don't agree with it, but I appreciate it. I'm very grateful that people say nice things." I was like, what does he think? Like, I'm like, what is Gareth Edwards' favorite Star Wars since the...
That's interesting, because if he wanted to be humble, he could just say like, "Oh, well, that really means a lot to me."
That means a lot to me. Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
right. That was my thought. I was like, so he must have a favorite.
Yeah. I don't know.
I bet you it's Last Jedi, but he's just scared shitless of saying that.
Right. Because there's so much goodwill from all the fans for him that he's just like, I'm not even wading into that.
I don't want to jinx it, he's talked about how for the reshoots for that movie, which Tony Gilroy, who, he has since created Andor, is credited with, he says they worked together. Mm-hmm. On the reshoots. So it wasn't a situation where he was shunted to one side, somebody else came in, but you had this very collaborative process. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Edwards is still the credited director. And yet there are elements that he did not supervise. And I'm like, what a fascinating process there,
Yeah.
And yet, the Darth Vader sequence, which many say is the highlight or the highlight of that movie, that was Gareth Edwards who did that. Oh,
really? Okay. Yeah. That's very, I mean, it doesn't happen often, but what a nice thing to hear that that collaboration, went well and it was successful.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of revisiting Rogue One right now, because I watched all of Andor with Amina. So, we're trying to get through the movie, and that's been challenging just because all the stuff in my house, but by stuff I mean people, the many people in my house. But it is interesting how, like, it in many ways it's a nice progression on the in other ways it's very distinct tonally from the show, because the show is doing something a little more cerebral, mm-hmm. And so it lines up pretty well, but there is still a little bump as you go from one section to the other,
Interesting.
How's have you made your way further through the show at all?
I haven't. I've been watching so many things. I've been to the theater a lot lately.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my thing. I mean, like I said with Ballerina, it was one night, kind of early, 6, something like that, and I was like, well, I could watch something here, or I could just as easily watch something in the theater. It's like I should mention also the theater's a mile from my house. Very easy to get to. Pretty much feels like it's free just because I'm paying that little monthly fee. So it was appealing. Like, oh, there's a lot of things playing right now that I wouldn't mind just hopping over there and checking out on a big screen. And so that's kind of been my
I think that's good.
MO lately. Yeah.
I think that is good. That being said, if you have not finished Andor by the next time I talk to you,
yeah, I will. There's new episodes of The Bear. I'm putting that out there. I got to get to those, and The Bear and Andor. Yes. And there was
There's
2 Titan Ocean Gate documentaries I had to watch that I didn't even talk about. Yes, I watched them both.
Wait, there's a second one?
There's one on Netflix, and there's one on Max or HBO Max or whatever it's called now.
What's the difference?
I would say the Netflix one was the one I may have preferred. It got a little bit more into the details of crafting the thing and how it was made and all the working with Boeing and how they tested it. And there's a lot of
this is the Netflix one.
This is the Netflix one. There's a lot of behind the scenes footage of them actually working on it, and footage from inside the submersible with the freaking guy here. Sorry, I didn't expect this, but basically his whole thing was he wanted to make the hull out of carbon fiber, right? Which is not solid. It's a bunch of microscopic fibers that are held together by some sort of polymer or whatever.
It's like a filament that winds around.
Yeah. So
because he's
not a great idea.
Goddamn stupid. He's a stupid idiot. That's why.
Well, because he was trying to save money.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's cheaper to transport the thing. It's cheaper to have a ship take it around. There's other things too, man. He stored it outside in the winter.
Yeah.
Where things could freeze and expand and then melt.
This guy's a genius.
Well, I never said that, but
no, not you. But that's what he was the spoken of that way.
Yeah. No, I mean, no. He was stubborn and selfish, frankly. And so anyway, you go down that deep, you've got this intense pressure on the hull of your ship. So you want something that's solid, not something that's made of microfibers.
So sorry, just the key point here, right, is you have airplane fuselages are made of microfiber hulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the difference there is that they're pressurized from the inside, so they're pushing out, and you're in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they're able to retain, resilience,
right?
Because there isn't pressure that's being placed on them, pushing down on them,
right?
And so this guy's like, oh, they do planes like that. Why can't they do, submersibles like that? It's like, bro.
But you know what he did have? A lot of money.
That's it. Yeah,
right.
Really.
Yeah. So it's
to flout the law, flout the rules.
Yeah, there's more to it. Basically, you can watch all these expert he hires one by one join and leave, because they're like, this is I can't be a part of this. But he continues and he continues anyway. But there's this crazy footage where we're inside the submersible with him, and he's going deeper and deeper, and you hear ping, 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 and those are the microfibers bursting.
Yep.
And he was just like, oh, that's normal. That'll happen.
You freaking kidding me?
It's crazy. So that's the Netflix one. That was the one I might have preferred because we got a lot of footage of the construction of the thing, being in the submersible with him, a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah. And then the other one, the one that was on Max, is a little bit more, not in a bad way, but like more talking heads and people who were there, and a little bit more getting to know the players a bit, which I enjoyed them both, honestly, because I just find the story fascinating. But I really enjoyed most seeing sort of the nuts and bolts of how the thing was put together and why it didn't work. Yeah. That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm partway through the Netflix one. I didn't know about the Max one, but I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I'm like weirdly obsessed with this story, but just because it's such an exemplar of man's hubris,
Yeah, I mean it's fast. I mean, it kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier, where with the Wes Anderson thing, where it's always nice knowing when there's something with that works out really, really well, I still enjoy seeing the early part of the story when the people don't know that it's going to go well. And that's interesting, the decisions that they made, even when things weren't certain. And I think this might play into that also, where unfortunately, this is the flip side. Something went really, really badly, but it's still interesting to look back and look at the decisions that were made along the way and admire the people who had the balls to step away, from a job that probably paid a lot of money.
Right.
But their convictions were so strong. You would like to think you would do that and not be like, well, I know, but I don't know, it's paying the rent. Like it's really admirable watching these people use their smarts to know better and to say something. They boldly said something and then they stepped away. So there is something interesting about the process of it all, I think, for me.
Right. I will check that out. Actually, while we're talking about streaming, I don't know if you've seen the promos for this, but you got this show coming up on Netflix next month called Untamed. Have you seen this?
No.
It's like a murder mystery at Yosemite starring Eric Bana and Sam Neill.
Okay.
And I'm just like, sold. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know. I'm like, done. I'm watching that.
Right.
Right?
That does. You said Netflix?
It's going to be on Netflix, yeah.
That does, in a weird sort of way, feel like it's fulfilling some sort of algorithmic thing for like us.
Yeah.
I don't care because I want to watch that.
There is, speaking of Eric Bana, he has like a franchise called The Dry. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah, it's from 2020.
Okay.
And it's called The Dry, and it's Eric Bana stars as like a he's a federal agent, but it's in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a crime, it's like a procedural type thing.
And that makes me
saw
happy.
that. Yeah, and it was very good. I enjoyed it. And then like last year or whenever it was, no, I guess it was last year, 2024. Yeah, it's called Force of Nature, and it's the sequel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's just it's just Eric Bana playing the same character. It's just really good.
Nice.
And Eric Bana is one of those guys. I've always liked him.
Same. And I've spoken about when I worked in movies. He was one of the more personable and nicer celebrities that I encountered, and always asking me how I was doing. Like a genuinely nice guy. So I've kind of kept tabs on him throughout the years, and it makes me happy that he's still doing his thing.
Well, check it out. It's in my voodoo. It's The Dry.
Okay.
You got like a solid movie waiting for you.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah. So check that out. Well, I guess that's all the news there is this week, right, Brian?
Zachy, I don't know. There's like a little nugget that dropped the other day. It might not even be worth our time, but
okay. Well, why don't you put it out there? I'll decide
if I must. They found a director to direct the new James Bond movie. I don't know if you have any interest in that. We can move on. All right, F1 guys. No.
I guess we should talk about this.
I'm dying to know what you think about this.
So the big news is as of yesterday's we're recording this, Denis Villeneuve has been set as director for James Bond 26, or if you prefer, Amazon's James Bond 1.
Right.
This is, we talked about it in a Patreon episode a few months ago, back when the Amazon people basically strong-armed Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. And by strong-armed, I mean they handed them a sack with the $sign on it and $1 billion in it.
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, go away. And they were like, okay.
Like, fine. Yeah. Like basically a blank check. Like, what will it take to make you go away? And they found a number and it worked.
Yeah. So you know what? Respect, because they did their time.
They did.
I have just like deep qualms about the idea that Jeff Bezos is now deciding the fate of James Bond. It's like Blofeld owning 007.
Right.
I have issues with that. But regardless, Amazon, which owns MGM, is now in charge of James Bond. They got they have a producing duo, right? It's David Heyman and
Amy Pascal,
right, from the Spider-Man films. Anyway, so there's a lot of question. Well, who's going to direct? Who's going to direct the new James Bond? And people were saying Christopher Nolan. And I said from the start, not going to be Christopher Nolan. I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, it wasn't. I was hoping it would be Martin Campbell, to be honest.
That would be perfect.
Right? I'm like,
Yes.
talk about a good luck charm, because he inaugurated the Brosnan era, he inaugurated the Craig era, and both turned out pretty well. But I cannot see anything wrong with Denis Villeneuve doing a James Bond movie. I was feeling, honestly, after the sale, I was like, am I even interested? Maybe No Time to Die was like as good an off-ramp as any.
Mm-hmm.
This got me interested.
Yeah, because I mean, with Amazon buying it, especially the way that it happened, paying people to basically go away, it almost feels like, okay,
Just
now
dirty,
he's been,
icky.
it's been dirty. He's like, now he's reduced to IP.
Exactly.
Right. And so then when you bring on, Villeneuve, he's like a director with an uncompromising vision, and he's celebrated for it.
Yeah.
So bringing someone who has the skill set he does, who has the prestige that he does, and is allowed to kind of do his thing, him directing a Bond movie makes me think that, like, okay, so this won't be like a product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This will be something from someone who with a vision, and that makes me excited about it.
Yeah, and I think that Amazon, obviously, they're very smart to lock in somebody like him, because right away it silences exactly what we were just talking about, which is that sense of like, oh, now James Bond is like this,
Mm-hmm.
and do I think Villeneuve is sticking around for the duration or for a trilogy? I don't think so. I think he's going to tap in, do his thing, check it off the list of personal accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
and move on and do whatever else, right? But a couple of things that make me happy. Number one, he's not doing this until after Dune Messiah.
Right.
So that means that they're not rushing something out.
Mm-hmm.
So it puts the development process in place, but it gives them enough runway to make the movie hopefully the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it does make me interested. I mean, of course, he's a name, and they would want someone like that to kick off the Amazon era of James Bond, but he must have a take. And it kind of makes me curious, what's the take? I mean, the Daniel Craig take was, it was pre, or no, was it pre or post Batman Begins? Or same year, maybe?
Well, development would have coincided with that movie's release.
Okay, because I mean, that was kind of the era of grounding things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The people that used to have sort of heightened realities that they existed in, Batman, James Bond, secret gadgets, things like that. It was like we're getting all these people back on the ground, and trying to have an explanation for how everything in their world worked. And so I'm curious what Villeneuve's take is. I mean, do we get back into the fanciful, slightly heightened version of the gadgets that Bond interacts with and villains? What's his take? That's what I'm curious about.
You know what I wouldn't mind seeing? I wouldn't mind seeing like period pictures.
That'd be kind of cool, frankly.
Right.
Like a 60s.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how practical that is for the long term, and probably that's not something Amazon would want.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're sort of like locked into that from now until God knows when,
Right.
But I mean, I think that's always the essential problem with these films is you have to sort of squint your eyes a little bit and pretend that British intelligence in, the 2020s has the same global sway that it did in the 1950s and 60s,
mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that's just not the case. Right.
Right.
So there's something sort of sci-fi about that.
Right.
And it's like, why not take it back to the era when it was, relevant and applicable,
Yeah. And, I mean, how much do you want to see like echoes of real world politics in your escapism, your Bond escapism? Like, I kind of want to see lasers inching up toward his crotch again,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Assuming this is set in the here and now, it would be the first James Bond ever where he works for His Majesty's Secret Service.
Wow. Yeah, you're right.
Which is pretty nuts. But I suspect now that the director has set the mad derby to decide who's going to play James Bond is going to kick into gear.
Yeah.
I was saying after the last one that I felt fairly certain that the next Bond would be a person of color.
Mm-hmm.
That was when when Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson are still in charge.
Yeah.
if I were to guess now, I don't think that'll be the case. I think it's going to be a white person.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you, but I've seen Aaron Pierre floated.
If Aaron Pierre is cast as James Bond, I would have zero problem with that.
The second I heard that, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I think that Amazon's goal will be to stay away from anything that even resembles quote unquote woke.
Sure.
As much as I disagree with that framing, I think they're going to want it to be as down, strictly formula as possible.
Right.
So if you want to give Henry Cavill a chance, I feel like now might be the time before the window closes.
Yeah, I could see that too. I'd really like
absolutely. That. I think he would.
He'd be great, and I could see him in what I kind of want to see, the slightly heightened version. I don't know. He's just got that fun twinkle in his eye. You know what I mean? Where he's not trying to be grim and gritty.
Well, we saw him do something similar in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, I realized that's what I was imagining in my head, the sort of tone of that movie, which, yeah, we both really enjoyed. Kind of unsung if people haven't seen it. Man from U.N.C.L.E. is a lot of fun.
That one just kind of flew under everybody's radar, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Cavill right now is in his early 40s, probably.
Damn, wow.
So he might be edging out of the age range for it to work.
Okay. Yeah, he's 42.
Well, hold on a second, because Pierce Brosnan was 42 in 1995. So exactly 30 years ago when he was in GoldenEye, he was 42.
Frankly, I mean, the way, regardless of age, age is just a number, right? Like Henry Cavill, as he is right now, for the next 10 years, I could see being an interesting, fun Bond.
I would agree with that. Yeah, look, if we're doing Vegas odds, I would say overwhelmingly it favors Henry Cavill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a few others, but I think in terms of sort of looking the part and everything, I think he's up there. Plus, he was second to Daniel Craig, right? 20 years ago.
Oh wow, maybe just a little too young at the time.
Way too. I mean, he would have been in his early 20s.
Oh wow.
Right.
Do you think we should? I mean, I agree. Should we DM this to Aaron Sorkin?
I think so.
Even though he has nothing to do with this, let's just keep telling him everything we're thinking about.
I think The Social Network 2 should be the James Bond sequel. I think.
Right.
I think you make it the same thing.
I just want us to I don't know, just keep texting him throughout the day, and he's like, "Why do these two guys keep?"
Hey, just following up.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing well. Just want to make sure this doesn't get lost in your inbox. Come on, Aaron, call us.
See, but then I'd like to think when I stop, like if something happens to me, like I fall down the stairs and I'm stuck because I broke my leg, and then he doesn't get one of those annoying messages from me. He's like, "Oh no, I think something happened to Brian," and it ends up that's the reason someone finds me in the stairwells, because all the bombarding messages I've been sending to Aaron Sorkin.
You get airlifted out of the house,
Yeah.
The reporter outside, as you're being airlifted in the background, the reporter is like, "And Oscar-winning screenwriter Aaron Sorkin orchestrated a daring rescue."
Exactly. And then I'm just like, "Thank you," and he's like, "Please stop messaging me." As I'm being lifted out of into the area,
as he blocks you on his phone.
Exactly, and I can't help but laugh.
Hey Brian, there's a new movie in theaters right now. Why don't we talk about it on the other side of this?
And now we're pleased to bring you our feature presentation.
And we are back. And before we get to our main discussion, I just wanted to say this news literally just broke between the time we went to break and just now. The person who composed the music we just heard, Lalo Schifrin, has passed away.
Yeah. Well, and also he's responsible for one of the most iconic and well-known themes of all time, Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. We were just singing his praises a few weeks ago.
Yeah, wow. I mean, what must that be like to come up with a tune that the world knows.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I even think of like that's the thing when in real life you're joking with your friends or your parents and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to sneak around this corner. You just go do, 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 you know, like it's shorthand.
Mm-hmm.
It's transcended just being a theme for a TV show. That's what an amazing thing.
Yeah. And obviously in addition to composing the Mission Impossible theme, he was extremely prolific during the 60s, 70s, into the 80s. He did the music for most of the Dirty Harry movies. Bullet, he did the score for the Starsky and Hutch theme, the theme for Mannix. He also did the theme for the Planet of the Apes television series.
Oh.
And most recently, and this is not even recent anymore, but the Rush Hour films, he did the scores for all three of those.
Really?
Yeah. So very distinctive music, and he was somebody who went from a young age. I recognized his name, and I was able to link it to a specific kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
And remarkable contribution to the world of TV and film. So long and gone at 93.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And I mean, how amazing and appropriate. We just played his music.
That's right. Yeah, and that music, for those of you who don't know, it was the Paramount fanfare from like 1976 until 2004, I believe. And so you used to hear it at the movie theaters all the time. And the version that we play was on the home video releases, the VHS releases of Paramount movies.
Yeah. So sometimes on VHS, they used to have trailers and commercials for, like Pepsi or Coke or something like that. And then they would play that. And now for our feature presentation.
That's right. So speaking of our feature presentation, the movie F1 is in theaters right now.
That's true. And I have to know, Zachy, is anyone else back besides us? I just don't feel right if I don't know. If you don't say.
Well, as it happens, Brian, you know who else is back?
Who's that?
Why, after a 30-year hiatus from the world of Formula One racing, it's Sonny Hayes, as played by Brad Pitt.
Bravo. Yes. But that's the thing. I mean, is he a has-been or is he a never was? That's what I want to know.
I think that's the question this movie is asking us to grapple with.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say, and I don't think you will disagree with me at all, that Brad Pitt is a well-preserved specimen, ain't he?
He's just one of those guys where especially when you're looking at him on an enormous screen, you're like, damn it, that guy is handsome.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think I texted you after the movie and I was like, I just couldn't stop staring at his hair. It was like, I enjoyed it and I was infuriated at the same time. It's just something to behold.
It is definitely trippy to see Brad Pitt fully in his Robert Redford in sneakers phase of his career,
Which is weird because he still feels younger somehow to me a little bit than the way that I perceived Robert Redford in the sneakers era.
Sure.
At the same time, I will say this is one of the first times where I did feel like, oh, he is an elder figure now. And maybe that has to do with, I mean, if I think of most recently, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or something, he's still wearing like t-shirts and jeans and he's older, but he's still like leaping onto rooftops and that sort of thing. But here he's, a little grizzled and world weary, which we don't always see from him. So,
well, I think it's a new lane for him to be in, and I'm based on this film, I'm all about it.
Yeah, same.
So this is directed by Joseph Kosinski, he of Top Gun Maverick fame, and also, of course, he got on my radar with Tron Legacy. So it's actually been great to see him just carry on and become kind of a name unto himself, Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. And I'll tell you, as racing movies go, this is about as rote and predictable as it gets, and I am here for all of it.
Yes, yeah. I don't know that I had known that this was a Bruckheimer production, and it absolutely makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. And I've kind of missed it. I've kind of missed what Bruckheimer brings a little bit.
He's got his own unique gear, if you will, that he gets into. It is interesting. I just had this thought. I know they've been kicking around the idea. They've been kicking the tires on, if you will, a Days of Thunder sequel.
Yeah.
And I was watching this movie. I was like, wouldn't this just be that? Like, you know what I mean? Like the plot line of this movie. I feel like that's what a Days of Thunder a sequel would be.
I am in entire agreement with you, but I can also hear Tom Cruise in the distance going, "No, no, it isn't."
He's running towards you in a full sprint to be like, "No, no, 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 no."
Yeah. It'd be different, I swear. But no, you're right. This feels like what the plot would be for that movie.
You know.
Well, yeah. This is an interesting one. Actually, I'm kind of looking forward to digging into it with you because. Well, first of all, let me ask, are you familiar with F1? And I know there's that series, the reality series on Netflix, and so many people have recommended it to me, and I believe them. I'm sure it's great. I haven't seen it yet. I wasn't. And
right.
So, I don't think that's going to hinder anyone's enjoyment of the movie. But I did, like if I was watching a movie about football or baseball or something, sometimes I can understand the tricks the characters are pulling. Like, oh, if you manipulate this will buy you this amount of time and you still won't get kicked out and you can do that sort of thing. I didn't have that going into this. So I was just kind of going with it as because Sonny knows how to manipulate the game a little bit. Whether or not that would actually work in real life, I don't know. But it was making me realize, like, oh, I guess I don't really know, oh, there's this red flag thing. That means this, which means an advantage for that. And I was like, oh, I guess I don't really know these things. I mean, did you have any?
I look, I mean, the extent of inside track knowledge, if you will, that I have about car racing is that cars go fast.
Right.
And I realized watching this, for me, it's a little bit. It's like watching Casino Royale.
Yeah,
I know nothing about poker. But I'm like, well, I guess that seems important what they did, And
but it's filmed dramatically.
Exactly. Oh, there's like a music sting right there, so that must mean something,
Yep.
And that's sort of what it was with this, where I'm like, well, I'll go with this because you tell me that, and I'm following the rhythm that you're laying down.
Mm-hmm.
And that was enough for me, honestly. What I realized watching this, I was like, man, I just love race car movies.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because Ford versus Ferrari was one of my favorites when it came out. Rush, I continue to believe, is just an unsung film. It's not nearly talked about enough,
Mm-hmm.
And I like Days of Thunder, so I'm like, I don't know about F1. I don't know about stock car racing. I don't know none of it. I don't know soapbox derby racing. But I know enough to be like, if you tell me what to be invested in, I'll go along with it. I'll go along with the journey because it matters to the characters if I care about the characters, and I cared about the characters here.
Yeah, and I agree because with racing, because it's fun and it's fast, but just we talk about this. I mean, the sports film formula is just undeniable, right? Yeah. If we can attach ourselves to a character and there's a moment where they're losing, we want to see them win, and most of the time they do, and it's almost like cheating, like the movie's cheating because it's like, of course, we're going to feel this rush and be excited and pump our fists in the air by the end, and so. Yeah, I'm always a sucker for a good sports film.
I think for me, obviously Brad Pitt, we bring our own just general affinity for him with us into the movie theater, so that helps. Like he plays somewhat of an archetype, and Brad Pitt is very good playing that archetype, so you can go along with that. I mean, from the first scene of the movie, where he's like sleeping in between laps, and then he gets up, he walks out into the, that whole thing. It all works for me.
Yeah. If we don't win, don't wake me up.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Totally love that. And by the way, let me give it up for my boy Shea Wiggum making his second appearance this summer.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was happy to see him.
That one of the most dependable. Hey, that guy is working today.
Mm-hmm.
But Damson Idris.
Mm-hmm.
First time I've ever seen him. This guy blew me away.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
A terrific presence. And what I really liked is that this is a film that essentially, big picture, you have an F1 team that's not doing so hot, and so they bring in Brad Pitt as Sonny Hayes to be the ringer essentially for this 2-person team. And what you think, and what the way the movie sets it up is, it's going to be this rivalry between the young up and coming guy who is Joshua Pierce, played by Damson Idris, and then Brad Pitt's character, and they do that rivalry thing. But I think the movie does something more interesting, where it tracks how they learn to be a team. And I was with the movie on every step of that journey.
Yeah, because they have their ups and downs, each of them.
Yeah,
and they each have growth they have to do in addition to the growth with one another, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it, it's not like one of them's just always right and the other has to catch up, which is kind of nice.
I think for me, I was really tracking with the crowd's energy. I think you mentioned, before you got on, that your crowd was pretty full when you saw it.
Yes, yeah,
and this was like 3 p.m. I went to a 4:00 show. It was at the IMAX, and it was just about 4/5 full.
Wow.
And there's a scene in the movie where a character gets into a crash where the car sort of gets tossed off the track. And I almost, as one, I heard in the audience.
I had the same experience. Actually, I saw when I saw Materialists, I saw it at a theater that I don't usually go to, and it was weird to me because it's more adult themed, but there was a lot of young people in there, and they were really noisy, like talking through the movie, laughing at inappropriate moments. And I just hadn't been used to that. I don't know why. I don't get a lot of that at the theater I typically go to. So I kind of had that in my head. So seeing this, yes, like that moment happens, there's a crash, and then the sound of the film basically drops out.
That's right.
So, the film itself kind of gasps.
Yeah.
And yes, my theater gasped. And then I did have a split second moment where I was wondering if anyone would ruin it, just because that had recently happened to me. Pin drop.
Okay.
Pin drop. Everybody was on board. Everybody was holding their breath.
Nobody was like, well, that just happened.
Right. By the way, have you seen the Smurfs trailer?
I haven't, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to be reviewing that for the paper, so I'm trying to
Okay.
I'm like, the less I see of that movie, the better. I just want to be able to watch it and experience.
Well, then I won't say anything else, but take what I just said as a statement. It literally feels like an SNL sketch of all those types of lines.
Oh God!
Just for 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. I look forward to your review. But I want to say, I do feel like I have to call something out, which I think is kind of interesting, and I'm kind of wrapping my head around it, and I'm curious if you felt this too. So I like this movie. I recommend this movie. It's super fun. It's thrilling. It's a great theatrical experience.
Absolutely.
It's also, I was kind of clocking, it's an interesting hybrid of 90s sports films, like cliches and all, like we were just talking about, the underdog. There's even a villain in this movie, which felt straight out of a 90s
totally.
Bruckheimer film, but right? Which maybe we can get into spoilers, but yeah, it kind of came toward the end, and I was like, huh? But it feels on track for the type of films that Bruckheimer makes. But the movie also has a bit more modern of a sensibility, like a more modern filmmaker making a 90s Bruckheimer film, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's making the movies he grew up with.
Yes, but it also felt like interpreted through his lens or prism or voice or something. And so it felt like it was a little less willing to have its heart on its sleeve.
Yeah.
And felt like it wanted to play it a little bit cooler, afraid that maybe if it leaned into certain sort of things, it might be a little too corny.
Right.
So it you know what I mean? Like, you can imagine this version, had it been made in the 90s, it would have been a little more willing to dip into the big emotions of it, and this one I felt had a little cooler of a feeling. And I was trying to think about how to articulate this, and it reminded me. Stick with me here. It reminded me of the movie AI, where you have hold on, you have a Stanley Kubrick story, which is very cold and and sci-fi and whatever, but told by Steven Spielberg, who's very warm. And so the end result is an interesting mash of styles that feels like, oh, interesting. Like I can see if Spielberg had fully made this, it would feel all in on this, or if Kubrick had made it, it would have felt all in on that. And instead, it was an interesting mash of styles. With this film, it was, for me, Bruckheimer and Kosinski. You have Bruckheimer, who's big, bombastic, big action, big emotions, cliches, like proudly cliches. And Kosinski, he's kind of about visual precision and sometimes occasionally like emotionally a little sterile. Thinking of like Tron and Oblivion.
Or Oblivion, yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard his films described as antiseptic, and this felt like an interesting mashing of that for me, where I think I only clocked it when that villain was introduced and the way that all played out, because it felt like something from a different film for me. And I was
I think given when that plot element enters the story, it felt a little like, oh, okay, we're doing that kind of thing.
Which I didn't mind, by the way.
No, me either. But it was, I mean, it was introduced late enough into the movie that I became aware of it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just my point, the only point I'm making is I did feel like I wouldn't have minded a little more warmth.
Interesting.
I like the characters. I like their journeys. I was cheering at times, and I was like, oh, at other times.
Yeah.
But it also did feel a little Kosinski-ish to me, more than Bruckheimer-ish. And I wonder if you could have tipped the scale just slightly, a little bit more warmth to it all. I would have enjoyed that.
Let me ask you, where does Top Gun Maverick sit on that spectrum for you?
See, and I literally thought about that because I didn't think about that during Top Gun. And I wonder if that's Tom Cruise.
Okay. Well, Tom Cruise, is very Bruckheimer, though.
It is Bruckheimer, but Tom Cruise, I think, can make the movie he wants to make. And I think he's got a great instinct. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't want to, this is more like something I noted. I'm not saying that this like brought it down or anything, but I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was a cooler feeling film than the version that might have had just a little more, I don't know, maybe old school warmth to it.
Yeah.
But maybe it would play different the second time. But it's just something I clocked. And the Kubrick, Spielberg thing, Bruckheimer, Kosinski mashing thing was something I landed on the drive home. And I was like, oh, that is kind of interesting. And I was wondering if Zachy felt that at all.
I think that's definitely Kosinski's aesthetic. So I absolutely pick up on that. I think that the moments that this film does allow for a kind of emotional through line, those did track for me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they set up a relationship between Brad Pitt and the Kerry Condon character that I found refreshingly old school, but also very sweet.
That's a good way of putting it. Refreshingly old school,
right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about how I could see an older version of this movie, like a 80s or 90s version of this movie, where there's like a young lady who we see throughout the movie who's one of the pit crew, and she's kind of stumbling and whatever, and I as I was watching, I was like, I could see a version of this movie where she is like the romantic interest.
Sure.
And I appreciated that they found they instead went for something that was more age appropriate.
Agreed. I'm glad it wasn't. Yeah, because they do have a character like that, a pit crew person who's finding her way.
Right in the film, yeah.
And I did actually, as it's not a huge part of the movie, but I did enjoy that relationship.
Yes,
that Sonny had with her. It it added texture and personality to the group. We're seeing he's there. You know, obviously they have a team. and it made the team feel like it had personalities within it versus just a group of people standing around Sonny.
I think the Joshua Pierce character, what I liked about him is that it isn't a question, like the team is not doing well, but it's not a situation where it's like this guy is cocky and over his skis and he's much more of a heel character.
Mm-hmm.
And instead what you realize is he's a guy who's very good, but he's so concerned with the showboat aspect, the social media aspect, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately Sonny's role in this film is getting Josh to where he needs to be.
And you can imagine that character almost being shorthand with those things where it's just like he's young, he cares more about social media.
Yeah.
But I thought the movie did a good job of showing why he would.
That's right.
Because that's the world we live in. And that's the media is following him and wants him to put on a show. And when he puts on a show, that's what gets him advertisers. And that's, that's the game now. That is part of it. This is not news to a lot of people that play sports video games, but I remember several years ago, my brother was telling me about like where Madden is now, which of course has been around since we were little kids, very rudimentary versions. But now an aspect of that game is who you choose to be and how you choose to talk to the media, and it's like, that's part of the game.
Right.
Right. And I find that kind of fascinating. And it would almost feel strange if a younger person in a movie like this wasn't wrestling with that relationship with between his actual job and the things that come with the job.
Yeah. There's one scene where Sonny and Josh are sitting together and he keeps like looking at his phone.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that. I was like, man, dude, put your phone down,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then Pitt's character is like, man, again with the phone, just that's just noise, and I'm like, man, this is good advice. It's good advice for everybody,
Yep.
Yeah, the relationship between them I was totally on board with. So this was the dilemma I had, was I was trying to figure out when I go to the bathroom, should I go when characters are talking, or should I go when a race is happening? Because I couldn't figure out what's more important.
Yeah, that's funny,
right? Because I found all of that stuff compelling. We haven't even talked about the character of Ruben, played by Javier Bardem. I love Javier Bardem just in general, but I really liked his character in this.
Just effortless. I mean, you bring in a guy who knows how to just show up and bring it just by being there.
Yeah.
And he takes like a character that could just feel like, come on, man, I got everything to lose. And then dips out of the movie for a minute and then comes back. Hey, man, no, seriously, I got everything to lose. But he is so memorable because of Bardem.
There's a scene where Bardem is looking at a hospital chart and he has to put on his reading glasses. And I was like, there's my boy Brian right there.
I literally thought the same. That I completely clocked that. For that, and that actually warms my heart. You thought of me. That's so funny. I literally thought, like, that's my future. Like, I gotta start carrying these things around.
Hey, if Javier can do it, you can do it too.
He did look good. That's so funny. Carrie Condon, great. I really think I only know her from Banshees of Inisherin, and I remember watching that movie and looking her up because I was like, who is this? Like, she just made such an impression in that film, and I think likewise in this.
No, but again, we also know her from telling us that Tony Stark's life signs have ceased.
Oh, really?
She's the voice of Friday.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now you know.
Yeah. Well, that's going to help me out in Cinematrix. Thank you.
Yeah, that's true. You got a whole bunch of Carrie Condon movies.
All I think about. I try to clock. I'll see trailers. Oh, that new Darren Aronofsky movie that has like Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, all these people. Like, oh, give it to me. This is gonna like crush on Cinematrix.
Man, is there a better feeling than getting the 1%?
No, there isn't.
I think I've said this before. One time I got the 0%, and it was Lon Chaney in High Noon.
Yep.
And honestly, I could have walked on water that day. It was a good day. No, but yes, Carrie Condon, who first time she really got on my radar as a performer was Banshees of Inisherin. I loved her in this, and as I said earlier, I found the relationship between her and Brad Pitt. I found it very sweet. It could have easily gone in very predictable ways, and in fact, I mean, you can see where it's going. But I appreciated that they tried to give it a certain amount of subtlety. You know, you know.
I agree. There's not like the one scene, like in the old school 90s movie, it would have been like she rebuffs him once and then he does like the absolute minimum and then she's like in bed with him.
That's right.
But yeah, like they feel like they have a dynamic in this film.
Yeah.
And speaking of like, I really did enjoy, this is a long movie, by the way. I mean, it's 2.5 hours,
maybe
even slightly longer. I told you, I texted you, I was shocked to learn that this movie is longer than Goodfellas, because I think of that as a long movie. Anyway, but I did appreciate that they showed kind of what's involved off of the track occasionally, where there's a lot of simulators and there's, I mean, so much just computer and software and, you know, him being like, okay, well, you know, if we want to get close to this turn or if we want to figure out how to use some other guy's, you know, whatever drift, if I'm going to be in his drift, we need to adjust this. So she goes straight to the computers and then she designs these just slightly different shaped little pieces to attach to the car. And I enjoyed seeing that sort of process part of it also from the team.
Yeah. And again, this goes to what we were saying earlier, where, I mean, it's like, this is not a world that I'm intimately familiar with. But if the movie does its job right, you don't need to be. You know, I think they do a good job of conveying the stakes.
Yep. I do have something I want to say. It's not a spoiler. I'm curious if do you want to go into spoilers or do you feel like you're able to kind of?
I at this point, I don't think we really need to.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing. I don't think it's really a spoiler, mild spoiler if you want to skip maybe 1 minute, but I thought this was kind of funny. So basically showing that Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt's character, is a man of the people, you know, while you have Joshua using all the high tech, you know, sorts of equipment and ways to, you know, think fast on his feet, or when he's jogging, he's on a treadmill with all these devices hooked up to him. But Sonny Hayes, you know,
he just jogs.
He jogs. He puts on sweatpants and he jogs on every track. And he has the pit crew with him.
Yep.
Right, because he's a man of the people. So I thought it was funny.
He's like George Bush, you know. Yes. Josh is like Homer watching George Bush jog by, you know, with all the.
That's right. But what I thought was funny was, as Joshua, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say, but as he grows a little bit as a person, he goes to the pit crew and he's like, "Let's go jogging."
Yep.
Because now he's going to be a man of the people and he's going to use sort of the old school ways versus the technology. But my first thought was that poor pit crew. I'm like, wait, so every time someone has character growth, we have to go jogging? I was like, you know, you're really imposing this on these people.
That's true. It's like they were hired for their technical proficiency, not their physical stamina, you know?
Yeah, and they may have already gone jogging with Sonny that morning, you know? Like,
that's a good point.
Wait, we have to go again? Like what? for you? Like this is for your character growth? I thought that was funny.
See, one way I know that I could never be a car racer is you have characters in this movie that are constantly told, if you drive one more time, you might die.
Yes.
And they're like, this is how I have to go. I'd be like, nope.
I know.
Like I would be gone before if you drive one more time, you might, where are you going? Because I'd be walking away with my bag, you know? So right. that idea always fascinates me. Where that spirit of competitiveness is such, like, I have to die doing this thing that I love. And that is sort of a movie thing.
Yeah.
But whether it's boxing or whatever, it's like, well, just don't do it then, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this with mountain climbing movies also.
Yes,
I'm like,
exactly.
It just doesn't compute for me. So it's hard for me. I will say, though, this movie didn't trip me up in that way.
No.
Whereas like Everest and,
yes.
You know, some of the documentaries we've watched, I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yes,
like if you fall, I'm gonna have a hard time feeling bad for you.
You
know, this succeeded in making me want him to achieve the things he wanted to achieve.
Right.
But yes, I'm with you in real life. If someone was like, yeah, I'd be like, all right, well, I'm taking my,
I had a good run. See ya.
yeah, my
let me know how it goes. You know?
me and my VW bus are out of here.
Yeah.
I did like his line though, especially coming out of Brad Pitt's mouth, his drawl, where they're like, well, this race involves this amount of money, or it doesn't involve a lot of money. And his line is always, it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Love that. I mean, that's something, where you're like, it gives you the tingle. That's a character you like.
Yeah, and I think given the arc the movie gives us for his character, that works.
Mm-hmm.
I also, we haven't talked about it at all, but the way the racing sequences are depicted.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to talk about the visuals. I mean,
we talked right past some very expert racing sequences, and apparently, for the better part of a year and a half, the film crew was basically embedded with F1 across the world.
Yeah, it's wild.
Amazing. So they were there with Ferrari and whoever, and they just got to know these pit crews, and they're and so there is this real verisimilitude when it comes to that.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it gives you the ability to have these huge, you're not having like stock shots of the crowd and then you cut to close-ups of our actors pretending like they're a part of that. I mean, you get these amazing wide shots where they are involved in the actual energy and action of the real thing. And the movie definitely feels that more alive because of it. But there's just so many incredible, I mean, Kosinski is, I did note that his movies can feel a little, precision-y or something, but like his vision, I mean, when it comes to action and all that, I mean, he just knows how to capture like speed and putting yourself into that speed. And there's a moment that I always loved in the trailers, and I loved it again in this, where the cars, it's from the first race, are going and there's fireworks going off in the background.
Right. Yeah.
So you just got this, spectacular flickering fireworks in the background as these cars are just racing down this speedway. It's really thrilling. And there's a lot of really great, and he did this again in Top Gun Maverick, but the camera is positioned in such a perfect way where it's clearly trained on Brad Pitt's face. He's in the car, but we're also seeing what's behind him and around him and the cars that he's passing. And I couldn't help but think like, damn, dude, like that looks dangerous.
Yeah. I was wondering how they did that,
Yeah. I was listening, Brad Pitt, who he doesn't, I feel like, get interviewed very often, or I don't hear interviews very often. He was on the Armchair podcast with Dax Shepard.
Oh yeah, sure.
I don't normally listen to that, but I was just so curious to hear Brad Pitt just, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was talking about that, and he said that the film's insurance wouldn't let him go over 140 miles per hour.
Interesting.
So he was doing this, but they were saying you can't go above this speed. But the experts, the car experts on the film, were like, no, just due to the physics and the way that this works, 140 is dangerous. He has to go faster.
Really?
And so they had to negotiate and get him up to at least 180 miles an hour.
Jeez.
So he really was almost going 200 miles per hour around that thing.
That is nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But it's, the production value of it all. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It shows up on screen.
And and at the end of the day, that's why we're here. I mean, I think number one is to see speed captured in such an exciting way on screen. And then, like you said, it's a bonus that it gave us characters that we enjoyed seeing growing along the way.
Yeah. I think that what my sense is, just based on the reaction of the audience, this is the type of movie that audiences will show up for.
I'm very curious. I haven't seen projections for this.
Well, I can look that up right now.
I do know. I mean, businessy side of it, I think this cost $300 million or possibly even more. This was
honestly, I think they can make that back worldwide. I think they'll be in good shape. This is a classic crowd pleaser. We're doing some real time fact checking as we go. So we're recording this Friday morning, and it has opened to 10 million in previews.
That's pretty good.
That is good, yeah. So let's see, this is on Deadline. Arguably the first of its kind tentpole for Apple original films on the big screen, bested the preview grosses of such expensive Apple movies as Napoleon, Killers of the Flower Moon, Argyle, and Fly Me to the Moon. That's not great company necessarily.
Yeah.
It says F1 also smokes the previews of another car racing movie, the multi-Oscar winning solid grossing Ford vs. Ferrari, which is actually a high point for the motorsports genre at the box office.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Surprised you don't see more of these. Because, I mean, fast cars.
Well, because Ford vs. Ferrari did okay.
Yeah, but I think of that as more of a human drama than a racing movie in my mind.
Sure. But I think the racing sequences are effective.
No, for sure. But like this one, I think of more of a racing movie than a human drama. Like from the reason I go to see it.
Sure.
Sense.
But Rush, for example, that didn't perform at all.
No, not at all.
And again, for anybody listening, by the way, Hans Zimmer did the scores for both Rush and this, and they're both great, very distinctive scores. But
yeah, I wasn't thinking about it, and then at the end, there was some theme playing, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like old school Zimmer."
Yep.
That reminded me of like '90s Zimmer.
You can tell when he's into it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Is there anything else that we want to say?
No, that's kind of it. I'm very curious to see people's reactions to this. Like I called my parents and I was like, oh yeah, this, because they wait for me to tell them if it's worth going to the theater. So obviously Mission Impossible, I was like, go. And they loved it. And I was like, go.
My prediction, word of mouth, is going to be very good on this, and it's going to have really long legs.
Yeah.
Because it's offering something that there's no direct competition for throughout the summer. I mean, we're heading into July, and we got Jurassic and Superman and Fantastic Four, so you got all that stuff covered. This has kind of a lane all to itself,
Yeah, it does. I mean, this is I've seen it called, a dad movie. Definitely is. Yeah. But I think it's like if you could drag the whole family to this.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think everyone will get into it.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, big thumbs up for F1 from both of us.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, we've been seeing this. We've been hearing about it forever. I mean, they've been shooting for years, literally. Yeah. And seeing the trailer forever. So it was fun to actually finally see it.
Well, hey, let us know your thoughts about our thoughts on F1. You can email us at moviefilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit like on our Facebook page, facebook.com/moviefilmpodcast, and message us there. As always, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a review, leave a star rating. Every little bit helps. And we also have a Patreon page, Brian.
Yes, we do. If you head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and hit subscribe for only $5 a month, you'll find every commentary we've ever done and every episode moving forward absolutely ad-free. We always like to say our free feed will always be available, but this is our way of providing what we believe is the most satisfying way to enjoy the show. So without random interruptions, random ad breaks popping in, messing up our flow, Zachy.
Yeah, it's true.
Plus, your subscription goes a long way in helping to support us and helping to sustain producing the show. So if you're interested and able, please head over to patreon.com/moviefilmpodcast and hit subscribe. We'd be very grateful.
And if you're looking for me online, you can find me on social media at Zacky's Corner, ZAKIS Corner. You can also read my reviews at the San Francisco Chronicle and IGN and The Wrap. I have a piece up at IGN right now celebrating 30 years of Batman Forever, which I had a lot of fun writing. I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah. Oh, I read it. It's great.
Oh, well thank you very much. And what do you have out there, Brian?
As always, episodes I've written of Young Jedi Adventures are available to stream on Disney+. And I think it's worth mentioning for the month of July, our schedule is going to be shaken up a little bit. I want to put that on everyone's radar. We're still going to deliver every week, but typically we tend to drop shows on Thursdays, mostly Fridays. But just due to the upcoming 4th of July holiday and some travel and things on our end, some episodes may drop on a Monday, they may drop on a Wednesday, they might drop on a Friday for the month of July, but they will be dropping. So just wanted to give a heads up about that.
That is true. Thank you for doing that. And with that, on behalf of my partner Brian Hall, my name is Zachy Hassan. This has been Movie Film 320. Catch you next time. Thanks, folks.
Welcome, friends. It's the Movie Film Podcast. Movie Film Podcast. Enjoy the show. Zachy and Brian.
radio.